well, we had a rough day on the first day. We broke the rear end, and like I'm very frustrated at that point because like we are day one and we have something broke that we really thought was right. And she comes up to me and she's crying and telling me, she's like, "You're the reason that I'm racing. I just want you to know that." And so I'm like, I told that, I was like, how could I not? Like, how could I not? So like, it just pushes me to like not let the little things bug me. That's probably the best answer.
My earliest memories, I grew up in...
You have to say the answer when you're also, like,
oh,
repeat the question, too.
Okay.
What?
Don't you want him to repeat the question?
No.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Smart ass.
Well, like...
Okay. My earliest, let's see, what was I saying?
Your earliest memory of racing?
My earliest memories of racing was at Orange County International Raceway, which was literally 5 miles from where I grew up, Southern California, Santa Ana. So when I was young, I'd ride my bicycle to the drag strip and watch the cars, sometimes from one side of the fence or the other if I had money. I'd pay and go inside. If I didn't, I'd stand outside and watch the cars go down the track.
Yeah, and then I would say, like, you didn't race continually for your entire life.
No,
like,
for years. I was always into it. I always go watch, always building hot rod cars and race car stuff for the street, but
yeah.
I didn't race at the track all
yeah.
the time.
But how old was I? Probably 8 when you got back towards like nostalgia racing.
Yeah, we got into, because we were building Willys, 1941 Willys for people all over the world, and that was kind of brought up, it was all about nostalgia racing.
Yeah.
So your earliest memories were
probably
blown Willys, Hemis, and
yeah.
big tires, but it was all nostalgia type stuff.
So like there was the automotive or like the drag racing history. I think that like said a lot of core stuff. Like it was one of those things where coming into it that way, like it gave respect for like the older racing.
Yeah.
But then in 2007, you had a 33 Willys Highboy that you traded with Denny Terzich for the black Camaro, 67.
Yeah, I was into the old school Hemis, the iron Hemis, and nostalgia stuff, and then that black Camaro came along that won drag week in 2007. That first 7-second street car, and I had the opportunity to trade for that, and you fell in love with it, and that's how you got into drag racing.
That was the car that like I enjoyed the other, I did, but like drag week and that car, that's what made me want to do racing. But it's funny because I get people ask a lot. They actually think that your background is hardcore drag racing, but you're a hardcore builder and have cars that can race.
I'm more of a builder. I like to make things. I'm a creator, therefore I create. It's a coin of phrase, but no, literally I built for more other people to have the fun of racing and driving the cars than I did for myself.
Yeah.
Dennis, did you have influence from your parents in being motorsports beforehand?
No, my parents were much older. I was late to come in, so they were quite old, but what I did have was 2 brothers, and my brother is probably the most influenced, got killed at Orange County International Raceway when he was 17 in 1969. But oddly enough, with music and cars, my stuff stopped right there. So my influences were literally from the late 60s, because that's where the guy that I looked up to, went away. When you're at that age that I was, which was very young, I was only 8 years old, I don't really remember how I dealt with it, but I acquired or inherited whatever, his music, all his albums, and his whole style that he had, which was, 60s rock and roll, Jimi Hendrix and stuff like that. So all of that in Orange County, California was everybody that was that age and older, everybody in Orange County, California that was any cool person, kid or young man, was into drag racing. It was the center of the universe for drag racing. So when he died, I suppose that's where my interest stopped. I watched him build the model cars, and he had a car, an old Ford that he worked on. But my other brother had a Model A. And when I was from birth, my older brother had a Model A sedan with a small block Chevy in it and a 4-speed. So then he went on to Super Sport Chevy. He bought a new 66 Chevelle 396 car. So he had Chevy 2 Super Sports, El Camino Super Sports. I just was raised around people. And then my neighborhood, I stayed on my Schwinn's and went to Everett's. If there was a guy working on a car, and 55 Chevys were the popular car. So if I saw a 55 Chevy, I stopped and made friends with this older guy. They might be 25, 30, and working on their cars and going to Orange County Raceway. So I'd stop and make friends with them, and that's why the nostalgia for me.
But
it was all the nostalgia cars, and then it took a long time for me to move into, this is nostalgia looking, but it's all modern performance.
It's funny though, like with all of what he's saying, like I was born and raised in Arkansas, but it's funny because like my influence feels like that same era. So it's funny like being out in California now with like Hot Rod Garage and stuff and cruising around and like hanging out with Lucky and stuff. He's like, oh, that's where Orange County, this is where that was. And I'm like, I already know that. Like that's where my background feels like it's from. So it's really funny.
She probably feels more at home in Southern California
so it's funny.
than she does in Arkansas. But I often think of her as my brother reincarnated.
We look a lot alike and have a lot of like mannerisms and stuff. So it's pretty funny. But it's fun like having that passed down, because like it was tricky a little bit initially to look like it's what I wanted to do. But like I don't know another life. This is my life. Like cars are my life. We wake up, it's cars, talk about cars. Like everybody that's involved in my life has something to do with cars. And I like it that way. And I see other people and they like separate it and they segment that lifestyle out. And for me, that's my life. So it's cool now. Like it's a lot of fun at this point where like he has what he's good at. Like he has like his qualifications and I have mine, and like being able to like join those together this car is the first real like showing of his forces with my forces and my brand with his brand. And even though it's the same like Taylor brand, there's two different approaches to it. So it's really neat to like, this is mine and his whole combination. Like when we actually built the car, I built it and I was like, it'll be perfectly fine. We'll push it out back. If something happens to it, I don't care about it. It's just a quick, down, dirty build. And like now I'm like, this is my favorite car literally ever. I look at it and I'm like, I love this car. And it's not just because of how it performs or how it looks, but it's like, that is fully from our minds and sitting in the shop and like back and forth conversation of, what do you think? What do you think? And like, that's the creation.
If you could imagine the hours that we've spent talking about what we want to put in the car, how we want to build it, how we want to fit it, what part we can afford for it, or what we already have. It's most father-daughters probably don't have anywhere near that amount of relationship with their kid. So for me to be able to pass it down to a kid, how can you not imagine that it's like it's my life, it's all I've ever done, it's all I've ever cared about. So then you got a daughter. I didn't get sons. I got 2 daughters. It's like, oh man, got these sissy girls. I got girls that kick ass, So I've got the best of both worlds, and it's not something that anybody ever planned. It's just what she was raised in the shop, building cars. We have a lot of shop and a lot of tools, and she was in there. And I'm somewhat of a teacher. If I'm doing something and she's there, I'm telling her why I'm doing it, why it needs to be done that way, how to do it. And I guess that inspires people, because I get people that actually thank me for doing that on her videos that she makes. And it's like, really, you care? But people do care. And that humbles me that somebody would actually learn from what I do. and she just picked it up and ran with it. She does all of it.
I just like to know the why.
You bring up a good point. This car is kind of a culmination of y'all's skills, but your YouTube channel is that way too. You spend a lot of time showing the world what he has taught you and some of his skills, like the metal casting stuff. I thought was really badass.
It's funny with the YouTube channel because that's something that I actually don't video myself. I have videoed him more so than me, and it's had an interesting like feedback because people love it, and for the most part people like get it, but we try to keep it like entertaining at the same time very educational, and so it's one of those things where we can feed off of each other's personalities. So like I can shoot him a question, and my question isn't because I don't know the answer, it's because like I know somebody else out there doesn't know the answer because I've asked that question at some point, and so like then he can share his knowledge. But like sometimes I think people miss the fact that that's not me learning in that moment. It is, but at the same time, it's just that's where our strong suits work together, because I'm able to feed into his knowledge and he's able to like feed into, I can portray it to other people. So it's actually it's strategic, but it is just our life at the same time. So
It is life. Like I said earlier, we didn't choose this life. This life chose us.
Literally. Like it's one of those things where I say other people segment their life. And for me, it literally did choose me in the same way it did him. I grew up in it, and you have the choice to be involved or to not. A lot of people that have kids that are into cars, like they're adults that have their kids, you know, adults are into cars, the kids don't always follow. And it was never forced on me, but like, I did not know that that was not normal life until probably like when I went to college. You know, like everything, when I say everything revolves around cars, literally everything does. We sit down for dinner and it's cars or projects or this or that. And it's not like in a boring, we don't know how to do anything else. It's just, that's what I love. Like that's my passion.
We didn't go out looking to be, you know, we didn't want to say, hey, car people are cool. And it's really coming on strong. I see all these TV shows on TV. Let's try being car people. That would be choosing the life.
Yeah.
That was never, ever an issue. For me, it was come from my brothers. It came from the fact that I was in Orange County on a Schwinn. And everybody in every neighborhood around my area had a 55 Chevy or some form of, you know, dune buggy,
Yeah.
whatever. And for her, she just grew up in that same sort of deal. You know,
Yeah.
it was me and all my friends. We had lots of customers, and she just started. She just took it over and rolled with it.
Yeah.
One memory that stands out is the first time I rode my dad's Camaro, and I was like 3 or 4 years old, couldn't see over the dashboard. He rips into like a second or third gear burnout this thing down the main street, and he backs off because he hears me making noise. Looks over and I'm giggling my ass off. And I still vaguely remember that night, like looking up at the dash, seeing the street lights come by and good times. What was that first memory for you?
So I have two. One of them was, I remember when he had the 41 Willys, blown Hemi car, and we have a hill in our back shop that's cement, and I remember like you launched it, but it was at the flat of that, and launched it, and I wasn't in a seat, and I remember like it jerking my head back, but that was like, I remember it because I hit my head, but it was like a giggle factor. But the actual like memory that probably stands out the most is that 67 Camaro that he's talking about. Pro Charger wine, like him or my mom or like one of the two would always show up to the school, elementary school, with a different car. And like that car would like, you know, it was just a very sinister, fast looking car, like Pro Charger wine, and it's just like all these moms in their minivans, and he just like pull over.
We got really dirty looks. I mean, we'd come down the street, Debbie and I would drive there in that Pro Charger. It had a 3-inch carbon fiber 8mm belt. It wasn't a little ribbed V-belt, rib belt deal. So you had the whine of the belt and you had the whine of the F7. And the thing in the open exhaust to boot, right out the front fenders. We'd come down the street in front of school and say, let's go by the school, and you know, they're inside, they'll hear the Camaro coming because they loved it. And there'd be teachers with rows of kids holding hands walking, and the teacher would force them up on the grass, off of the sidewalk. That car's sinister, it's evil.
Yeah,
there's just
funny.
A lot of memories with that.
And one more was when I remember when the transporter truck backed up with the black 55 Chevy, and I was like, I want that car. Like, we have another 55 Chevy.
Like this post.
Yeah, and it backed up, and I was like, I want that car. Like, that's my car. I love that car.
Yeah, it was built in 1968 as a hot rod. So there you go. There's that late 1960s, early 70s stuff. Some military guy built the car out of a really clean black Bel Air 55 Chevy, put a 327 crate motor in it, a Muncie, and American 5-spokes. And I bought that car, and it was built in 68, and she fell in love with it. So there's that, if you want to tie it back to my brother, that was his car time, his era, the style and everything. So it's really creepy in some ways, but it's very legit.
Moving forward to now, what is kind of your motivation behind pushing so hard? Everyone kind of has that inner fire for varying reasons. They're either trying to prove something to themselves, to someone else, to someone up higher. Hey, where does your...
For me?
Yeah.
Why? I guess, like, one, I love it, so why would I stop? I am, I guess, addicted to, like, one, speed, but two, like, I'm very type A personality, and so if it can be done, like, I want to do it well. And I don't know a life that's not busy. Like, I go home, right now my schedule is I'm home maybe 3 days a month, it feels like. And I look forward to those days at home, and then I get home and I'm like, what do I do? Like, it's busy now, but I love being busy, and like, this is what I love doing. So why would I not take every single opportunity that's out there? Every day I try to figure out how to either get more hours out of the day or sleep less and still function. Like, I've got so many things.
If I'm involved in that, then I've got to figure out how to make time in my schedule.
Yeah.
Which is about to start happening again.
It's pretty rough.
Different car.
I asked him, we had an idea. He had an idea for a project, actually, and for roadkill nights. And he called me and we were talking about it. I'm like, I'm sold. I'm like, can we fit this in for 2 weeks in July? Because that's what I got. So.
Yeah. So I get drug into a lot of it, but what else am I going to do? Keeps me young.
Yeah.
Have, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine. We talk about it, actually. We'll see people at the golf course in their get-up, their golf things that they wear. And it's like, they actually dress for that. This is our Sunday go to meeting clothes, and this is our bedtime clothes.
Yeah.
Maybe not her, it is for me.
I like to be fancy too, but it's funny because, like, we do literally we have conversations about, man, we worked a lot, I'm tired, but what else would we be doing? Like, that is what we do.
A week from now, you're going to be a week older, no matter if you worked really hard or if you sit on the couch and watch TV. If I work really hard, I'm going to accomplish something. If I sit on the couch and watch TV, I'm going to be a week older with nothing to show for it.
A perfect example of that was with the 55. When we sat down last year, like January 30th, and figured out that we wanted to do this, we like did the math on the calendar, and we were both like acknowledged, we're like, this is going to suck. These 4 months are going to suck, but they're going to pass by anyways, so we could have a cool car to show for it, or those months could be gone. And
how do you embrace the suck?
well, because when you're in the moment, you just like see the end goal in mind. Like, I remember sitting in the shop and it's like, okay, this car's gonna go fast. So, there's always a positive out of it. Suck is a very relative term. By suck, I mean like you're gonna be dead tired and malnourished, but
we dehydrate, we stay in the shop so long and work so hard that we dehydrate. And at my age, I'm getting cramps, I'm down underneath cars. I still get under cars like a 20-year-old, but I might, when I'm dehydrated like that and malnourished, I get cramps. So that's the sucks part. The creating stuff, that does not suck. It's just a lot of work. The guy told me one time, embrace the suck. And that's exactly what we do. We embrace the suck. It's hard, but we embrace it and we want it.
Yeah.
And with that, why does it frustrate you when there's something you cannot fix, you have to adjust? For instance, the car today is hurt, so you have to make a soft pass. Why does that drive you insane?
Oh, man.
Oh, it hurts because, and hurt's a relative term, like I laughed about it, but it's like...
To keep from crying.
To keep from crying, because like the car is so capable, and the past, I don't know, year and a half has gone into perfecting it, and
it goes faster every time we go
out. It does.
Except this week.
It's just little things that you literally can't control. Like, it's not that we didn't put every ounce of effort into preparing it to be right, but when you have a part fail that you had nothing to do with, that's where the frustration comes, because it's like, I see people out there, they come up to me and they're like, we can't wait to see you do good. And for me, not only do I want to do good for myself, but I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I can't perform today. Like, I can't perform today. And so that's the part where it's like, that's where the frustration comes for me, just because I know we have something capable of it, and to like,
so many people want to see it do really good, and you feel like you're letting everybody down, including yourself.
Oh yeah, and so it's just like, man, now we gotta wait, 4 months to make this happen again. So.
One thing I think is unique is you've, from a young age, you've had this presence that requires that kind of pressure around you, right?
Yeah.
What have you kind of learned from that pressure, and how's it evolved you as you grow older? And how old are you now? 25?
About to turn 25,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so as you transition from teenage to real adulthood, how has that constant attention, pressure, and such kind of affected you?
I don't know. Hasn't really, like, people come up to me and say stuff about, like, oh, say it's like Hot Rod Garage recently, like, oh, you can't talk to us now. I'm like, that is the lamest thing. I'm like, I am just busier now. That's the only thing. And so for me, like, the pressure isn't even really from the outside. It's weird. For me, it's more of like I think the best way to answer that is I have gotten more competitive as I've gotten older, partly because of the pressure pushing me, but not like the pressure has cracked me. It's just made me want to push harder to do better, because I see people, like, I have had so many girls and so many boys and so many adults and young people alike come up to me this week and they're like, you're the reason that I'm going to be racing. You're inspiring me. And I had a girl, we had a rough day on the first day. We broke the rear end. And like, I'm very frustrated at that point, because like we are day one and we have something broke that we really thought was right. And she comes up to me and she's crying and telling me, she's like, you're the reason that I'm racing. I just want you to know that. And so I'm like, I told that, I was like, how could I not? Like, how could I not? So like, it just pushes me to like not let the little things bug me. That's probably the best answer.
But it makes you, when somebody is impressed or inspired by you,
yeah,
it makes you feel really bad if you let them down. Most people can, if people aren't looking up to you, and I don't mean this in any other, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but if you're just a regular guy and you're building a fast car, and you may be kind of in the background, for some reason you're in the forefront, whatever that is, but if you do something wrong, if you break a part and you put it on a trailer, it's no big deal. You don't beat yourself up over it.
That's different.
We've been that all our life. But now that people are paying attention, it's not that we're trying to get that fame or attention, but they're doing it, and it's like, that's humbling, and it's impressive that anybody cares what we're doing at all. So you feel like you're letting them down if you don't push hard.
I think that's the thing that like got me the most, like when we were on the quest for the sixes, like towards the end of it, before we got the six, I kept saying, I'm like, this is so frustrating, because like I can't move on from that goal until I accomplish it with everybody else. Like they need to see that happen, because that's a relatable thing. And so for me, it's just like fulfilling unspoken promises. Like that's probably the best way.
Their expectations are high.
Yeah.
So
and you want to
really
carry that out. And it's one of those things. It's like, not like I'm looking for it. I've never looked for it. It's just, people are like, what's your end goal? I'm like, I don't know. Keep doing stuff with cars, like having a good time. And so that's where the other things fall into place and people watch, because like it is truly the passion and the fire that comes through. And that's what, that's the push there.
I hate the word influencer.
With a passion.
It usually means that there is another motive towards what they're doing, how they're interacting with people.
Yeah.
But I have always maintained that you're more of a role model, even from your early days racing. How do you view that? How do you deal with that responsibility?
So the term is awful, because influencer, like you said, sometimes or often has an ulterior motive. I accidentally became an influencer because I love racing, and I had to find a way to continue doing that, and that came with the responsibilities that an influencer would have. So I actually suck at making content.
Found you.
It found me, and I suck at making content. Like, people ask me, they're like, how do you do it? I'm like, don't ask me. Like, I haven't posted a video in 3 months because I've been busy racing, and that, at the end of the day, it's interesting, because I've talked to him about this. Used to, being an influential person was looked up upon, but an influencer, when you add that ER, becomes a negative. to a lot of people. But I think like there is a little bit of a difference. You can be influential without being an influencer. Influential people.
Influencer is like being a professional celebrity.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you're not going out to be influential, but when you are somewhat influential, people label you as an influencer, and
It's
it's
a
like
weird-
a title that you really don't want.
Yeah, and it's not because like I don't like I usually try to appreciate when somebody puts that label because I understand their intentions with the term, but I just don't want it to be mixed up because I'm not racing to create content. I'm creating content to race, so it's backwards.
And maybe besides your father, who is the biggest influence in your life, though?
Well, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. Like, Dad's the one that's like, we talk literally every day, even when I'm in California, like getting ready to go to Hot Rod Garage. I call him and like have a morning meeting with him about whatever it may be. So, really that's the most influential person. But as far as like, people always ask the question like, who is somebody that inspires? Like, I would say Jesse Combs. Like, that was the one that was like, because it's a lot, like driving, building, doing all the things, not just one. So
That's the only person that I've ever really heard her speak admirably about, just personally admiring. There's drivers and there's racers, and she's not a sports person, and she's just never been just like me. We travel to the beat of a different drum. We're not impressed with ourselves. We're never impressed with what we do. It's never good enough, but we put all our 100% of our effort into what we're doing. So, there's a few guys in my life, John Butera and some of the early guys that Stonewoods and Cook, I've got a few favorites that probably influenced me, and I admired them a lot, but neither one of us have really been big on idols or anything like that. So
no, I have respect. It's just like I respect them for their craft, but I don't follow with, I don't know.
Well, you don't want to.
I don't want to be like them. I want to be Alex Taylor.
Yeah,
I don't want to be somebody else.
You do your own thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to be, and that's one of the things that if you admire or if you copy or something, you need to be your own person. You need to
Uniqueness, yeah.
It's kind of hard to say without sounding conceited, and we don't mean it that way.
No.
But we're busy with our own self rather than admiring or assimilating with a lot of other people.
And respect. It's still having the respect for other and like respecting what they do and acknowledging that they do it well.
We admire
that's
lots of people.
yeah.
There's so many people.
As much time as possible into improving yourself as opposed to idolizing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not into false idols, but as far as admiring other builders and what have you, other drivers, we have a lot of respect because
I follow a lot of people.
We're so nobody. We still have so much to learn, and that's what's so cool is every day, if you're not learning something every day, you need to rethink things. Because every day, I don't care if you're 100 years old, Gene Winfield, what is he, 99 years old, I think he just turned. And I guarantee that man would tell you that he's learning something every single day. And that's where I want to be. I've got so much left to learn, and it's hard to stop and think about idolizing or whatever. I know we weren't talking about idolizing, but inspiration. We look at people that do, if I see somebody building a really cool piece for a car, it's like, man, I'm inspired. That's inspirational, and I admire them. But, then my mind immediately goes to what I can do with something like that. And I'm not going to copy it. I'm going to build something very Dennis Taylor instead of...
I think that's an honest difference between inspiration and idolizing. The last question I'll get at is mostly for you. Being where you are in life right now, if you had to give some piece of advice to someone else who's in a similar phase of life, post high school, figuring it out and finding the pieces here, and finding a momentum.
Yeah.
What would you kind of pass along to someone?
A couple pieces, but first of all, like, stick to yourself. Like, be yourself, because that's the best thing. But also, like, don't be afraid to, like, work hard and try. Like, you will be your biggest enemy kind of deal. And third, like, don't get so stuck on an end goal. So many people like want you to say like, I am going to do this in 15 years. And anytime anybody's asked me that question, I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, you don't know what you want to do in 5 years? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I know my passion. And so I'd say, like, if you can find your passion, it'll fall into place. So like, people get really stuck on the end goal and a straight path getting there. And I'm just like, I might drive, I might do camera work, I might edit a video, I might, do
You
builds.
wing it.
Like, it's just like, I know the general direction and it's gonna look like this. And that's what I like. I like waking up every day and not knowing what I'm gonna do tomorrow, because that's cool.
My whole life I've said that.
Yeah.
I don't want to know where tomorrow's money comes from. I want to wake up to something
Yeah.
new and exciting.
I think the biggest thing somebody at that point can do is find their passion, and then like literally everything else falls into place. And it's a mindset deal. You just got to put yourself in a mindset of like, they can do it, I can do it, and like, it's out there, the opportunity's out there, so you just got to find a way to make it happen. And if you really are dedicated to it, you'll make it happen. It is what it is.